106. And with me, as I mentioned before, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Dean Schmidt. Yay!
Hey, Lauren.
I
Hey,
just saw a little earlier this morning on a whole different call. It's like, yay, it's like Dean Day. I noticed you're doing with the subtle tropic shirt today, not the
yes.
normally.
Well, it's kind of Hawaiian-ish. It's got the tropics thing.
You are getting a reputation better known for your bold. That's the word. Bold tropical shirts.
Well, I've got one planned for 4th of July weekend. So stay tuned for that. And well, just tease it.
Special shirt. What? Let's see. I'm making sure that we're broadcasting all well and live. Oh, I got to expand my little screen here a little bit. Make sure that we're doing well for this. Sorry for it. This is one of those proverbial times where technology sometimes gets in the way because hey, Mrs. Del Gutman, how are you this morning?
Wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, good. Just ready to whine about the fact that I went to turn on. I was in a haste today because Dean and I had some tighter calls earlier this morning with some folks. And of all days for the technology to say, oh, no, we have to update this first. And it's like, then no time to do that. So we're on schedule, on time, but barely. I think we're a little bit late on that one. But, of all things, look at this. I'm running a little late, and Mr. Robert Cole sent out his newsletter before the show.
Right.
I mean,
what's that all about?
You would think, like, what?
And then he wanted us to study it and be well versed on it in time for the test at 10:30 here.
Yeah, right. Actually, it's funny from this, and Adele, I'm glad you're here for this because I raised an interesting question in our dialogue earlier this morning. I won't say who we're talking to in particular, but just the fact that what to anticipate for group demand if it is there, based on the current prices that are in market for people to travel. We small talk that usually starts in a conversation with people for business, how you doing, how's things going, blah, blah, blah. There's this. We focused in on how amazingly expensive it is to travel right now. And is that going to have, in my mind, I think it's going to have a longer term effect on corporate or group travel plans for almost the rest of this year. I'm optimistically, maybe not the whole rest of this year, but for well into fall, I think, because we're going to go through another demand surge for seasonality of holidays and so forth. This Thanksgiving through Christmas is probably going to be a travel period unlike that has been seen for a long time. And I think the prices are going to reflect that because we were talking about the ludicrous prices. We went right from light speed to ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, you know what? we wanted to go to Connecticut. Now we have a new airline in Charleston, Breeze Airlines, that flies directly from Charleston to Connecticut. So great, a decent price. It was not amazing, but once you added in all the little extras like the dog fee, but we were excited. We booked it, and then we went on the other side to book the car. $1,300 for the week or 10 days that we would be there. When we left New York City because of COVID, when we went to Connecticut, we rented a car for maybe $800 a month.
Right.
A month.
So $1,300 for a week or 10 days. I can't remember what my husband was pricing. So we canceled. Thankfully, Breeze was kind enough to let us cancel the flight without any penalty. And we're going to drive.
Right.
Because, yeah. So, and also I looked at to go to the Commercial Strategy Week in Dallas in September. And I took a look at the prices and, honestly, they were kind of a bit higher than I had imagined that they would be. And I'm not working for a hotel now, so it would be coming out of my own pocket. So I had to go,
If I can offer a tip on that. So there are several conference hotels right there in the immediate area. Of course, you've got the Omni, you've got the Hyatt, and a lot of them are running very expensive. There is a special conference rate, by the way, which takes a little bit of sting out of that, but their regular consumer rates are really high. There is a La Quinta within reasonable walking distance from the conference center that is below $200 a night.
Well,
Take a look.
that could be a possibility. Good to know. You know what? I will probably just look at TripAdvisor and see what's a really high rated hotel that is not so expensive, and give that a try. Yeah, it'll be nice. Or I might stay in one of the hotels I used to work at when I lived in Dallas.
There you go. We were talking earlier this morning with somebody, Lauren and I, and so we've used this term revenge travel quite a bit, actually. The consumers ready to get out and so forth. But is it now? Are we seeing it turn the other way to where it becomes revenge on the traveler? Because we look at these scenarios where at one point you could get a 5-star hotel in New York City, Times Square, for $125, right? Now all of a sudden we're seeing, maybe not New York, but like in Dallas and Vegas and places like that, room rates that used to be even under $100 going over the $500 a night mark. And quite frankly, it annoys me just a little bit. I'll be very candid. It really frustrates me because you've got a lot of the pent-up demand coming from frontline workers who busted their butts and worked through the pandemic and finally have a chance to go somewhere. And holy crap, you're going to charge me $500 a night for this stuff. I can't do that. And I know the very first thing that I would do if I was that hotel that's coming out of the pandemic and getting back to normal here is offer those frontline workers some type of a coupon code, hell, a free night if you can, whatever, and give them a break, because that just annoys the daylights out of me. But all this time that we as an industry and as travelers have been trying to support you when we could and say, yeah, we need to help these guys out. And now you're just turning around and socking it to us with everything you got. Come on.
At lower levels of service.
Yeah, at lower levels of service.
And that's really the shocker. If you're going to charge, I mean, Dr. Peter Ritchie from FAU, who has been, I think doing surveys with over 80,000 hospitality students, which are often actual hoteliers that just maybe are on furlough or just wanted to level up their skills. What was he saying? He said that there were hotels that were charging $1,000 a night and still not offering housekeeping, not offering the breakfast.
Right.
I mean, come on, you can't say you can't pay a fair wage for housekeeping and maintenance teams at $1,000 a night, and at $500 the same is true.
Yeah.
And you know what? At $300 the same is true. It's not. I mean, it's one thing to say that at a $100 or $79 a night hotel, they have different challenges. I read this morning a post. I'm not going to say, who or anything like that, but a director of sales at a hotel is director of sales or director of sales and marketing. But I think it was director of sales. He's alone at the front desk that night. He's got 10 arrivals yet to come. He has one housekeeper, and he's already fixed a toilet, fixed an air conditioning, gone into the laundry room and fixed something in there, escorted a trespasser out the door. And, and people are getting mad because nothing's getting fixed fast enough. Nothing's getting, the rooms aren't getting ready fast enough. I mean, who is owning these hotels that are leaving these people alone, who are managing them? I mean, if I owned that hotel, I mean, I'd be over there with my family trying to get things done. But these people feel so abandoned.
Well, it's a hypocrisy that we face. And let me just step back one step into where I first feel the hypocrisy and then how it grows beyond that. All of us in the industry, when we traveled because we worked for a corporation or something like this, always benefited from our relationship with the hotels when it came to affordability. If we weren't traveling on the company dime, we usually had a pretty discounted relationship with somebody because of our involvement in the industry. By the same token, we walk around and preach and beat on pulpits about rate and rate integrity and growth of rate and generation of revenue and so forth. We push all this need to high rates until as we point out to ourselves, wait a minute, it's on my dime. Whoa, no, I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to stay down there. And, Robert, and I wish he was here to talk about this, has been phenomenal always under the auspice of, I just got to find the one dumb revenue manager, the one person that left a certain rate open for a certain ways and forgot about it. And I'm able to get an amazing rate because we start doing this comparison. When you run your own business, every dime is $1, and you're going to want to optimize what you're doing. You don't want to be that person that says, well, you should max your rate, but by the same time, give me a discount. Because really, yeah, if I need to be coming there for business, I'm expecting some sort of that value. But if I'm doing something where I'm attending a conference, like we're going to go to high tech or HSMAI's events and stuff like this, the hotel rates are freaking off the chart, not even worthy of consideration right now. They're just exploitive at this point. Now, on our day job, we're talking about, well, get the rate that you can get, so forth and so on. I have even moderated my conversations back with owners. We're saying, to what you just said, Adele, what are they getting for this? Well, everybody else is charging this, so we're going to go. So everybody else jumps off a cliff, you're jumping off? What happened to the good guy thing? What happened to doing it right and providing the services? Because the other component, which you are totally in line with, Adele, that you've been preaching since day one, is be careful what you're doing now because it's going to affect you in the future. Your crappy ass service right now is going to bite you in the butt later on for all the negativity that you're generating around your product.
Right.
Where you can say, hey, I was just doing what everybody else did. And, rates, that's the demand that we had and we were able to do it. But you realize your entire loyal base of people are no longer loyal because you didn't have the food service, even though I'm paying 3 times what I used to pay before when I did get the food service, and I'm not getting the cleaning schedules and so forth. And our public is not dumb. They can see the fact that you don't, you're not doing all the services to it. And yes, there's a martyrdom that we're running with right now. Oh, woe is us. We don't have enough people to do our work. And, we barely survived this past 15 months, so pay the rates we're asking because this is getting it back. But to what you just said, Adele, ownerships, management companies, and so forth, they're not in there humping a load of laundry. They're not in there running a front desk shift. And it pangs me that management companies are sitting back there going, just send us our checks, and we should tell you what to do, and we're going to help you find these people. But they go home at night at 5:00, or they're still at home working from their home or whatever. And meanwhile, you got as you said, a DOS sitting up on the front desk wearing 15 hats. And
you know what? Any DOS I've ever met would always say, I'm happy to chip in anywhere that I can. I'm happy to wear every single hat in the hotel. I will do it. I will be there shoulder to shoulder with you. But you know what? Not forever.
Right.
Not alone, without hardly another help. He had 2 other people with him, and you know what? Why should that person stay? And then don't say, well, people don't want to work anymore. They want to work, but
But
the
that's the other thing too,
circumstances have to change.
I'm noticing too on some of these job application processes, we say that a lot of people are looking, hey, Fog and Mirror, you're hired, okay? Or I'm having to pay for a skill set. I have to pay rates for a skill set that I'm not getting. Like, hey, I got to pay premium rates for an unskilled person to come in just because that's all I can get in. There is that side of the story. The other side is what you're talking about is I am burning out the talent that I have, that if some other hotel comes up to that person and says, hey, wow, do I respect what you're doing? I want somebody that has that culture in them to come work with me and let me offer you what I think is what you're interested in, which is maybe what you're getting paid the same as, but I treat you with respect where I'm going to give you the resources that you're not going to get burnt out helping me. Yes, you're still going to possibly have to do what you're doing there, but not with this hopelessness that nothing's changing. Rather, it's a temporary thing that I may ask you to do. That might be the turning point where somebody says to their current boss, hey, I'm out. I'm going to go to this other place. And it wasn't anything that I missed about being here, except for the fact you didn't treat me with the respect I wanted. It's an odd mix. We're wanting a lot. Go ahead, Dean.
Oh, and then going back to what you were saying earlier too about, $500 per night, $1,000 per night. I've got some expectations. Mm-hmm. And if those expectations are not met, what's going to happen. And so now you've got that one DOS that's at the front office for a desk. So he's left. So you've lost your good staff. The consumer hasn't gotten what they wanted. So now they're out there writing bad reviews and bad mouthing your hotel left, right, and sideways. And so you're riding this little high right now, and suddenly it starts going like this. And come October, you're wondering what happened. Well, guess what?
And we are burning the bridge on many things. There is realities to what we're dealing with. We have ownership that's trying to refill the coffers that were depleted from times past.
Sure.
I understand the business model. That
There's
I'm
a
not being
limit.
ignorant to that. Yeah, but there's a limit to that. And the other is that they're looking for getting while their getting's good, and while they have the limitation of not having the resources, and or they can diminish their services so they can yield more on their costing margins and so forth. But all that being said, they're burning a future bridge with stuff that I don't know is completely repairable in a way, because
Right.
even if you were a good hotel and you got your rate now, rack on the back of the door thing plus, and not providing the level of services, aka cost of those services, and you're not looking to replenish your people and so forth, you're marginally great now, but the backflow of people, the future tense when you have to get back into that mindset, because we've had discussions all week and week before, and Dean, you've been there, where we've talked about when the market turns to a competitive market again for marketing, how do you stand? And if you lost a full 1.5 on your review scores because you suck.
Now, conversely, that's also an opportunity for you. So if you are that hotel that is charging a fair price, yes, you should be getting a strong price right now. Make no mistake about that. $1,000 a night is not reasonable, though, unless you are the Four Seasons in the Maldives, maybe that. Okay, but for a typical, city center hotel, come on. All right, so you're a hotel. You are charging a reasonable price. Yes, you got a strong price, but it's reasonable, and you're delivering a quality experience while that other guy over here isn't. Now, guess what happens? Your score starts going up. Your market ranking starts going up. It's an opportunity for you. You can gain share against those other guys.
Yep. Yeah. Who was your competitor before that may have been ranked higher than you, or now all of a sudden you're the pace runner when it comes to that. I think what we're going to see, I'm not trying to be some sort of fortune teller, but I think we're going to start seeing social media pushback more than what we're seeing now. Right now, we're seeing the errant people that are just fed up, want the one-offs. Like, this is bullshit. I can't believe I'm paying this rate. So they're one-offs right now. But I think when there's enough of an echo chamber of that, where people are like, I'm not the only one that's really pissed off about this. And I understand everybody's trying to get back to normal and everybody's wanting to come and show up so you can charge higher prices. I get it, but $1,000? Are you kidding me?
Right.
At that point, it turns exploitive. And I think you're going to start getting a social media pushback. I think it's going to land on deaf ears, because the business owners, runners of the hotel are going to be like, I'm still going to make the margins I can make while the getting's good. And they're going to just burn both ends of the candle to do that. Smarter ones will realize that it's time to ease off on the gas pedal a little bit and be a little bit more in tune with what the demand versus the reality is for some of their guests that are wanting to come. But the ignorant ones are going to be like, until it no longer has the demand that I can charge the rate, I want to keep pushing rate. And I think that's a product of our hyper elevation of revenue managers. I'm not trying to dog on revenue managers, but that's the carrot that's always been put in front of them. Maximize rate, maximize on demand.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they're not just maximizing on rate, they're maximizing on occupancy when they don't have the staff to really accommodate that many people.
Yep.
They can't take care of that many people fast enough.
Yeah. I mean, I made the comment in conversations we've had on Clubhouse and so forth. On a personal level here, we're just now beginning to go meet our friends in open air restaurants. And there's one just on blocks from where I live and so forth. We went down to meet them. The food's not bad. It's bar food. It's average. Nothing really to write home about, So we went down there, and the sandwich, the patty melt, that I was like, oh man, I'm going to get a patty melt. I haven't had a patty melt in a long time. Get a patty melt. The sandwich is about a third smaller than what it was. The portion of the fries that came with it, which was a big treat for me for being on the fact that I'm trying to lose weight and everything else. Fries to me is like a bonus, like, ooh, I'm going to do this. It's going to be good, and it's a smaller portion, which probably is a good thing. But the price went up almost double for a smaller portion, smaller amount. All the prices went up. I'm not drinking right now, but I had some iced tea and stuff like that. And then there's the COVID cleaning fee that they threw in, the mandatory tipping because they wanted to make sure that. But meanwhile, And so it really for the two of us to go and sit and me have a tea and Renee to have a beer and two sandwiches was like $60. And I'm sitting there going, in the world of what other people might be comparing to, it's not bad. But for me, it's like, that was a $25, $30 thing before,
Mhm.
Wow.
So one, I'm not going to go as often. So you're shooting that in the foot. Two, I'm really not happy with the whole, and the service was average. It wasn't bad service or anything like this. Place hadn't really changed much. So it's kind of the same place I expected. Those things were baselines. But by the time everything got paid for and so forth, I kind of felt like, okay, I know you're trying to make back what you kind of lost and you couldn't open the way you're opening and you're happy to have us back, but Happy isn't charging me twice as much to do that. I'm not going to go out as much for that. To me, it's like we got kind of spoiled being at home. It's, even with food prices going up and everything,
So you just need to come to Nebraska. I know there's a little place, Bob's Bar and Grill in Martinsburg, Nebraska,
Woo!
that you'll get a hamburger and a plate of fries
Woo!
for under $10.
See, all the reason why to go to Nebraska. But
There you go.
That's true. But it seems like we are in that exploitive mode right now of trying to make up for lost time or lost revenue from this past 15 months. And yes, people feel a little more flush with cash because they hadn't been spending it as much. So the relevant value of it doesn't seem to be as much as it is the value of being able to do it. Get that. I understand all that for right now, that seems to be the focus of a lot of stuff right now. But I think that's going to burn off. I think that's going to begin to push back on us, and it's going to hurt some of the things that are going on. These who was talking to us? They were flying from Dallas to Atlanta, hub to hub, and the nonstop ticket was over $700.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the two-stop ticket was not much better at $500, and that was two stops way the heck out of everywhere: Chicago, Philly, Atlanta, or something crazy like that. But it was only a couple $100 less. That used to be $120, $180 ticket. I understand, prices change, prices go, but we're seeing rise in inflation right now too. So value of dollar is going down, prices of items are going up. It's a bad mix, and we as an industry, I think, are pushing on that a little hard. But so much for the winding of it, I guess. I mean, in some ways, I think. But my real question is like, okay, so Adele, what do you think? Do you think, with the way the pricing is going right now, how long will that be a factor in our current market from your perspective? And do you think it's going to hamper, straight up example, late September going to high tech, where, go and get a hotel room is going to be a $400 or $500 a night thing, plus flights of, $500 to $700, plus if you're not getting a rent-a-car, because gosh knows you already scared me away from that.
That was in Connecticut. I don't know what it'll be like in Dallas, but I've heard so many stories. I mean, people trying to get a rent-a-car in the Hamptons, for example. Well, you can imagine, I mean, how the prices there have gone up. And of course, Hawaii, but I've heard that that's a problem everywhere. Now I believe it. I was pretty shocked. Will it last? I don't know. I think that, for example, January and February, December, for northern places, those are really tough times in the best of times for us to fill with hotel guests. So I don't think that is going to be happening necessarily at that time, unless you're in a hot weather place where people are trying to get out, and everybody's going to want to because they didn't get a chance to get out last year. So I think that we'll just have to see how the season goes. But September is a lovely month to travel. Yeah. I mean, if you're not afraid of hurricane season, yes, it's a lovely month to travel.
So for me, I think personally that the travel for Thanksgiving and the travel for Christmas are going to be massive. I think that this ability to come back for these particular holidays now, I agree with you. It's going to be very sensitive to each market as to how this happens. But like right now, for instance, I have clients in northern upstate New York. They were getting derived business from people that they were leaving New York City because there was nothing that was done and most of the stuff were closed. Well, now that tide has shifted backwards, and now they're losing their local demand market for people now wanting to go into the city to enjoy the fact that the city is open again. and they can do all those things. And so, not it's good for New York that they have that, and it's good for New York that they have the demand for it. I think the magic of New York and Christmas is going to be a massive bucket list request to people. Like, I am not going to miss this in case they want to lock us up again. I'm going to go catch New York during Christmas, because you can't put your finger on it, but it is pretty cool. It's just a neat place to be, in Chicago too.
But it's a mixed month. We have it's busy from Thanksgiving to the second week of December.
Right.
And when it actually is Christmas week, everybody's got a sale.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's like begging for business during that time. And some years we get lucky and we fill up pretty well, but it's all with packages and discounts and incentives and everything. And a lot of marketing has to go into that because people are home with their family.
Yeah.
They're or they maybe have gone to the Caribbean, but they're not usually. Yeah, it's definitely a tough time. January and February, even for New York.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to really hustle to get the business in. And I remember, SDR would always be saying, what is wrong with you people in New York? Do you not see that there's a huge demand of people coming to the summer to New York City? Why are you always dropping your rate by $150? Because we wouldn't be full otherwise. I mean, nobody would do it if we didn't need to.
Right.
But January and February, that's really tough for us. So I'm hoping for the best for New York, for a great summer and a great fall. But we're really going to see the truth of the recovery in how January, February is.
I think you're spot on with that, because, and as Lauren was saying too, with the Thanksgiving, Christmas time period, there's a lot of people that didn't get to go see family this past year, either due to travel restrictions. Family could have been in the hospital for numerous reasons. And so now we skipped the holidays last year. Let's just call it that. And so now this year we're trying to catch up and make up for that, the family you haven't seen and so forth. And yeah, that gets us through the holidays. And then Adele, to what you're saying, now what happens in January?
Yeah. And also it's really going to make a difference, like what pathways open up for airlines, because a lot of places, a lot of cities count on international travelers.
And that's the other part to it too, as to where will we be for allowing and them being allowed to travel into the U.S. I had a real interesting conversation with somebody in the clubhouse that was in England that was not aware of how the EU community is being presented here to the U.S. We're getting advertisement that says Europe is open.
Right.
Come visit. And they're like, are you freaking nuts? We got 3 zones, green, red, yellow. We can't even get out of our own municipality. Because I raised the question, it says, do you think there would be kind of the ugly American envious tourist perspective for people in the European community? Sees the American tourists running around carefree and happy because they can come in fully vaccinated. They're being welcomed in fully vaccinated. And meanwhile, they who have yet to get their vaccinations or have scale of vaccinations to reduce their restrictions are looking at you through the window, watching you parade down the street. They can't go down. Where is that going to go? And what's the real benefit of the travel for the U.S. person that goes over there and still things aren't quite open? I mean, lots of places. Greece has announced what they're doing. Italy's announced it, and they're all with fanfare, like, oh, all of our attractions are open again. But if you look at the local restrictions, they don't even have ability to enjoy the very thing that's down their road, pretty much. And we're being welcomed in with vaccinations. So in England, he was like, "You're kidding me." He says, "We don't want anybody here. We don't want And yeah, if I saw some as he said, bloke walking down as a tourist, and I can't even go to the local grocery store because it's out of my range of where I can go and get fined. He says, "I'd be And I think there's a misstep to all that. I know from our Canadian clients, everyone's looking for the end of summer to open up the border. But Stephanie Mayo, she's with us on Clubhouse. She talked about her firsthand experience going to Toronto. She had some family affairs issues to take care of, and her family was up there. The reality of going through the quarantine cycle is painful.
Oh, gosh.
The paperwork that's required, the the fees that are required, it's $200 to take the test that you're supposed to have before you go, and it's $200 this, and you have the quarantine of 3 days and 14 days and 10 days. There's all these variations. You have checkups. She said she was on the computer when she finally got to Toronto in her hotel room, and she was filling in the form indicating for her virtual testing. She was taking. You have to take the test in front of somebody on the camera. You're literally and you're putting it in and sealing it and sending it. They have to watch you do that. Nobody tells me that. So
Wow.
as she's doing this, somebody's knocking on her door. She's not supposed to have visitors, so she's not answering the door. She's like, I don't know, maybe it's housekeeping on the wrong door or whatever, but I'm not answering the door. It was the verification services that she was in the room. She got slid a note saying, you didn't answer the door to the verification services. You're being reported to the police with a possible $5,000 fine and extradition, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what the hell is this? I can't answer, nobody, so she's going through all these processes. I'm like, and it's not cheap. It's $300 a day with warm meals, and that's arbitrary. She was going through all what you had to do about being identified and where you could travel to, where you couldn't travel to. She was only authorized to go to the facility that her family member was at. She had to be almost escorted from point A to point B. She couldn't do any deviations. Walk past the coffee house? No. Right there. Okay, you're going right in that little building right there. And to get transportation, only certain transportation companies are allowed to transport her. She can't go on public transportation. There's a lot of we don't talk about it until you have to use it, And so, yeah, go ahead, Dean. I'm sorry.
Well, so now my brother actually just came back from a trip to Jamaica, and to their credit, as for their 20th wedding anniversary, and they planned this a little bit in advance, so it's still during the time when everything was dirt cheap, right? But I was telling him, I was like, man, I'm a little skeptical. I don't know if, and I travel fairly frequently, or at least did before COVID. Yeah, I don't know if I would be comfortable going to Jamaica just yet. I feel like maybe you're a little bit ahead of the game here. But that said, and by the way, he just got back, so I haven't sat down with them and gone through the whole thing. But so far, the worst thing that happened to them is they lost their luggage on the way back. But they didn't have any issues with COVID, right? They took a test at a local medical facility before they went here, and were able to take that with them, show them, proof that you got tested. They've had their vaccinations. They've done all this stuff. They went there. They pretty much had to stay at the resort, but you're at a resort, right? So that was kind of the idea, because you go here, hang out. They got a beach, all that kind of stuff. They didn't really have to go anywhere.
They didn't have to stay in their room, so it was okay.
Right. Just had to stay at the resort, and of course come back and get tested again. So really, they didn't have a whole lot of issues on their trip.
You can imagine how irritated, I won't even use the bad words, you'd be if you were on Southwest Airlines, you checked in your luggage, you're on the plane is taxiing, then called back to the gate. They can't fly because the weather system that Southwest uses is shut down, so they can't fly the plane. Then you go back to the gate to find out that the planes aren't flying, okay?
Any of them.
Any of them. But meanwhile, your luggage can't also be off-boarded because there's no tracking capabilities for them to know where the luggage be, because they don't know if the plane's going to go out or not. So people's luggage actually got shipped to some destination and is sitting in a big pile in some airport, and they don't know whose they are, and they're going through the sorting process while you're waiting for them to find out whether they can even find your luggage. And your whole flight got canceled and everything got shut down, and you dropped $500 or $700 to have that pleasure.
Your luggage had a better trip than you did.
And Southwest right now is not refunding the money.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh my God. That would be that'd be a whole new level of pissed off. I mean, I remember, and this goes back many years, I think it was actually 08 or 07, the meltdown with US Airways before they merged, and all the luggage piled up in Philadelphia, big piles of black suitcases that were, made the news, where all the planes defaulted back to their hub to bring the luggage and so forth. They're open to travel.
Bermuda.
Yeah, Bermuda. That's the best.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it is. It is funny. We US wise have a bit of a bias. As the guy with England was telling me, he's like, look, you're awesome. You can go between states. You can go up to different places, blah, blah, blah. Here, no. Even though he can go up to Scotland in 2.5 hours, the rules are completely different, and he can't travel that far anywhere. He can't go anywhere for that kind of stuff. And that goes back to the tourism demand stuff, going back to New York. It's like, if towards holidays, international travel can happen, I think you'd find a lot of people wanting to come to New York. If it's not, you're still going to have, I think, a lot of domestic holiday interest. To your point, that was like there's certain moments and points to it. I also think the duration of Thanksgiving is going to be much larger than the weekend of the holiday. The Thursday through Sunday thing,
Yeah,
I think is
that's
going to be
fair.
a whole family. We're going to really yield this. And as we talked about earlier with Dean, when we were having that conversation with you know who, are we giving business to Airbnb and VRBO? Because we're throwing $700 room rates around for limited service options, and meanwhile, you can go rent a house for $250, $300 from them because their prices are about that.
Yeah.
You're going, that sounds like a hell of a lot better deal than me paying for a hotel that I'm not getting any service from.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've come to terms with having limited service. I can have a room. I can have a house.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is that they may have a minimum stay, and you do have to pay extra for the housekeeping. That's like a separate thing.
Yeah.
And
And
you
the
never,
cancellation policy is a little stiff.
when you're calculating it, oh, that's true. Oh, well, that's
Mhm.
absolutely true. Cancellation policy is completely different. It's a commitment. But yeah, we don't we include it, but when we're making the decision, should I stay here or here, you're not thinking about the housekeeping fee, and then you go,
Yeah.
oh wow, can't believe I just paid that much.
Right.
You know,
But-
And then they tell you to clean up your house. That
Yeah.
people are trashing their hotel rooms right now, completely trashing them. And I think it's probably somewhat because they're not getting daily housekeeping. So after a few days, it looks really terrible.
yeah.
And they're ordering in food, not eating out and about. So all that crap is all over the room for accumulated for days. Somebody should be taking out the trash every day, even if you don't have daily housekeeping, actually sanitizing the room. They should at least take out the trash. But anyway, yeah, it's an extra charge, and so just keep that in mind. It is not really the same thing, but if you have your own private pool, that's pretty cool.
Now, one of the articles in Robert's newsletter this week, and I saw this earlier this week too, is about Airbnb having paid out basically hush money for people that had problems, ran into one disaster or another, staying at one of the Airbnb properties. And as I'm reading that, I'm just thinking, is there anybody that didn't think that was already happening? Of course they have been. You're staying in somebody's home and it's not a regulated commercial property.
Mhm.
Stuff's gonna happen sometimes. I'm not saying all the time. I don't want to make anybody, don't go about quoting me saying, "Oh, Dean said these are dangerous." No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But stuff happens, right? And especially when you're in an unregulated facility like that, yeah, of course they're paying out money.
I meant to make another point about the house that I stayed in recently. We had all kind of instructions on how to leave it. Put the towels in the washing machine. You don't have to strip the beds, but you have to take out all the trash and put it in bags and leave it over here. And you have to put these things over there. Make sure you've loaded the dishwasher. So it was really, we had so many housekeeping instructions, and yet we still had to pay for the housekeeper that was going to come in and clean the house.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk, and then I hear other people talk about their Airbnb. Oh, that was great. We all get to hang out in the living room, blah blah blah. It is a matter of how, and it goes back to what Dean just said, the unregulated aspect of it, the demands of one host to another. What I've been finding is that people are naturally greedy anyway. Sorry. And when we find Airbnb locations that have constrictive cancellations, like I don't care if it's a hurricane, the building blow in, there's nothing but a slab, you're still paying for one night's penalty if you cancel. I mean,
That's not right. That's not right.
No, but that's a lot of the cancellation policies. Like, regardless of what you do after the 48-hour window to change your mind, you're stuck with a fee no matter what the reason is. No matter what the reason is, personal loss, whatever. Nope, just building got wiped off with a hurricane, you still have to pay. Even though we have nothing to sell you, still have to pay. I'm sure you can contest it and go through this, and there's a process, but really to go through that process is it part of the decision making. So that being said, Renee's found a wonderful job of it where she'll find out the person that owns the thing or what they have. And usually they're on multiple platforms. They're trying to sell it anywhere they can. And they often have their own website for it. And you reach out to them directly. Yes, they may still try to enforce some sort of cancellation fee, but usually dealing with them directly, you can get a better rate, less restrictions.
Interesting.
So there's a
So-
book direct for Airbnb.
Book directs for anything.
Yeah, right. Now,
Because
when
you
does
know
that become a
you remember the
competition?
condo hotels where the condo hotel is trying to sell it as a hotel or as a resort. Then you have the individual owners, which we've all dealt with from a marketing perspective, that are self-selling their own product. They're putting it on the Airbnbs, they're putting it on the VRBOs and all that kind of stuff. And the difference is that they can't offer the amenities that the condo resort are giving, because only the owner of the condo can benefit as a participant at the resort. I have this firsthand, for we had this problem where you had to have the owner's keys, the owner's card to use the pools, the tennis, the spas and things. And some owners went so far as to actually give their tenants their cards and keys so they could offer and sell the fact that they could sell their room as if they were the owner and enjoying the benefits of the association. And it took forever for us to find those things, those people out. And then on top of it, they were constantly messing with our local Google My Business stuff, because they were constantly trying to make their one single unit address validate for that address that was for the resort, and was constantly jeopardizing. And no matter how much we told the owners, like, stop doing this, you're hurting everybody by doing this. They don't care about everybody. They care about themselves. And the people that were worst at it were the ones that had the low rotation inventory. They weren't putting money in to renovate their units, so they were being pulled out of the normal rotation of bookings, because the 70s shag carpet and the swag lamps hanging off the corners isn't exactly the selling point when somebody else is dropping a lot of money. Yeah. So they were the ones that were more aggressive about self-selling their products, because they weren't getting the normal rotation with the condo ownership based on the fact they weren't keeping it updated on schedule. So there's just so many little moving pieces that drive people crazy on these kind of things. But those are the cracks that we have to look for. Like you're saying it, I was like, making travel decisions now, it's not just going to one shop. And that's what Expedia is trying to offer. Oh, we got you. Their ad campaign. Oh, we got you. They're not a freaking travel agency. You're not even a number. You're a hyper hex code.
I'm trying Rashida Jones. She must be making money coming and going for all her wonderful promotions. She's good. She's good.
No.
I was just thinking, what do you do if you're in one of those situations, like some hotels, for example, in Myrtle Beach, where you have condo owners who are renting their units by themselves, and you have it's in the hotel, and so you have the hotel management trying to sell that property and get good reviews, but the individual owners who are renting out their things individually don't necessarily have the same furnishings, the same cleaning policies, the same decor, same maintenance. I don't really know, but it's very much two different things. And one is trashing the other one's reputation.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is that you do in a situation like that to distinguish the two businesses. It must be very confusing for the consumers.
Well, the first thing you do is, if you're going to run it like that, and a lot of people do, I'm not putting down people that do it that way, but accept that as being part of the game. That's part of the deal, that as soon as you allowed an individual owner to rent out one of those units in your property, you're still on the hook for anything bad that happens at that individual unit.
It is. It's funny, to your point, Adele, we've had exactly that circumstance. And there is only certain levers that the organization can pressure an individual owner in performing. Their fiduciary responsibility of commitment of inventory is one thing, where to be in that condo ownership cluster that they committed their inventory into, there were levels of commitment that they had. How well they were written and how much they were enforced is an issue, because, case in point, we had one other unit that the person hit on financial hard times, family loss, and so forth. The dogs are in. Um, and so they gave them a waiver, a temporary waiver, not to fulfill the mandatory annual rejuvenation of the property. Like, okay, we understand that you can't financially redo some of the FF&E. That was used to beat them over the head for another unit that didn't want to do their FF&E improvement, as citing an exception. You created an exception for them. I want an exception. I can't do it this year, when there was no verification that they couldn't or couldn't do it. It was just they didn't want to do it. Once that wedge is created, you get a lot of older retired people that are professional in their previous lives, and they have lots of times to waste on this kind of things, finding the cracks in the little holes of exception and so forth. And then you have the owners that the service can only control, well, if you don't do this, we're not going to put you into the inventory cycle. There's the preferential units that are, beachfront view. They always go in higher demand. People always want their rooms. A lot of times the room is available. It's unsellable. I can't sell that room again because I have to put you into the rotation of another room that isn't beachfront. It's a revenue nightmare, because you got a revenue manager that's trying to yield, and they literally can't sell what the person wants. They have to limit the inventory based on the cycle of distribution.
Wow.
So you have other things. There's some solutions that have been coming into place, which is called rev share demand. I got the unit that is the most demand. Adele, you don't. But I share a larger portion to the pool of general revenue share for everybody, because I can get my units sold more frequently than you can get your units sold. You have the decision of, well, it's two-edged sword, because then there's times where I don't feel like I want to put any money into renovating my unit because it sells because of the view and everything else. And the reverse of it is, Adele, you're not making enough money off of yours, so you don't want to renovate yours either, because you're not yielding enough off of it. So the association has to deal with both conversations, and it is like literally herding cats. And when it comes to it, because everybody has their personal perspective of why they're doing this. They think they own the place. This place I'm talking about, I'm not going to name them. You have those people that own the condo units that are for the resort. Then you have actual owners of condos that aren't in that mix, that are also associated. Then you have this very high level membership of people paying to be able to use all the services of this resort. And then you have golf and membership and spa membership and resort membership, have all these different people. And when it comes to demand time, there's not enough chairs around the pool for even one group of these people. And you got who's peeing on whose leg, who's more important, who has the higher priority. I pay full membership, so I have the right to this chair. And the person's like, I own the freaking condo right above your head. I have the right to do it. And it turns into a whole nother mess of who's more of a priority, who gets the privilege of doing these kind of things. As you can tell, I don't wish this on anybody. It first sounds like a great deal. You don't have to own the building. Everybody's willing to put their inventory in. Everybody, free sells, but it never works out to everybody being happy. There's always this issue. And going to our point, rates and creeping rates and what platforms they're trying to sell them on, and rate disparity, because what will happen is, Adele, say for instance, you have your inventory in this place and we're charging $300 a night. But you want to sell yours. You're not getting the same rotation my unit's getting. So you put yours out on Airbnb for $200 a night. Dean's a consumer. He doesn't know the difference between what I'm selling at $300, what you're selling at $200. It's still the same resort and everything else like this. Yours, you can't offer access to the amenities because you're free selling it.
Oh.
But Dean doesn't know that. And so Dean books with you, and then gets there and finds out that he can't go down to the pool because you didn't buy through the platform that says you would get the card that opens the key door to go into the pool. So then you as an owner going, oh, I left the cards in the drawer in the kitchen. Go ahead. But then the ownership goes over and says, you're not Adele. And Dean's like, yes, I am. It's amazing the complexities of those things that being a condo hotel administration service, find your worst enemy and say, guess what? I got a job for you.
Well, you know what? It sounds like it's not such a great option for the consumer either.
No, because it really is a mixed bag depending upon who you're buying it from. You are running the risk of what you're having. I mean, we tend to, going back to the example of what Renee does for us, we don't go to larger places. We avoid condo hotel stuff. We go to organizations that each owner is allowed to sell whatever way they can. and that shareability allows kind of a free sale component. That way, if I have a beachfront resort and people want to buy me more often, my inventory is limited. I got 1 unit, maybe 2 units, maybe I'm rich and wealthy and I have 2-3 units, and I'm selling these things, but they're sold out. Well, Dean might still want to be there, but he's not going to get my beach facing property, but he's going to get your street facing property, but he gets to enjoy the whole place anyway. He's going to walk out to the beach and doesn't need to sit on a balcony to do it. It's but those places exist. There's a lot of places like that exist, and I'm really kind of curious to know in your home turf with New York how those super hosts are going to work out with Airbnb. The ones that because some hotels they went into the super host world.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not aware how they can possibly do it, because it seems like every building says there's no way you can do that here. Everybody who I might have known who was renting things out on their own is doing it totally in fear of getting caught.
Well,
basically.
the New York Hotel Association has been militant about chasing them down for taxation and everything else. They've been adamant about why are they not paying bed tax? Why are they not paying hospitality fee?
Well, I remember also I had a sales manager in one of our New York hotels who had to move out of the place that she was renting because she was so terrified of the kind of people that were being allowed to come and go on her floor, and everybody is a cousin. I'm sorry, but she said what was happening there was putting her in danger, and she just wasn't going to put up with it anymore. And it's a very unfortunate thing to happen. That would never be allowed to happen in the building that I lived in. In fact, when I was moving from one floor to a higher floor, and I had already bought the other apartment but hadn't sold the lower apartment yet, I had a girlfriend of mine stay in one of the apartments. I was still there under one roof. And they said, no, she cannot stay there with her son by herself unless you're in the apartment with her. So the only way that she would be able to stay is if John would be with her boy in one apartment.
Oh my gosh.
In one apartment. I mean, totally. That's just crazy. The rules are insane sometimes.
Sure.
How to get away with it. I don't know.
Well,
but
some of those
very dangerous.
Yeah, some of the super hosts owned the whole building, and they basically took apartment places and ran them down and put them into this short sale Airbnbs. But down here, the horror stories usually exist for party houses. Airbnb is a toxic environment in communities. Just it is, because if you start Airbnb selling your home, your neighbors deal with whoever you rent that house to. And that temporariness of their engagement of those people in there. And please keep in mind, we down here have a tremendous amount of seasonal rentals. It is a business that's been around since everybody figured out there was sand on the beach down here. So we have a lot of rules and regulations associated with the frequency of being able to sell. A lot of condos down here, you can only rent it once every 6 months, twice a year max, lots of things, rules, guidelines. So you don't get this temporary short-term rollover stuff. Even with that in place, they're renting out their homes. And instead of going to a hotel with a group or something like this, you'll get people that will go to a house and have a massive party. One, it trashes the whole place. Two, the neighbors have to put up with it. We just got in the news the other day where the neighbor went over to the Airbnb house to say, guys, this is not acceptable, this screaming, yelling, and they get a gun pulled on them. It's like,
yes, I mean, you have to be careful.
It's like,
my goodness.
it's amazing. I mean, we're dealing with that in society right now. We see that, and we can bring that up in conversation today too. But just this aspect of anger, this pent up anger. I think I talked about this way back before we started letting loose with the vaccinations, that we had to start training our teams about the anger that people are going to be traveling with. That I mentioned running out of coffee in the lobby, and the person's full tilt bonzo because there's no coffee in the coffee thing in the lobby, and the staff needs to realize it has nothing to do with coffee. It has everything to do with all the stuff, and we're putting fuel on the fire with the rates we're doing. But anyway, go ahead.
And we're also not training them to think about things properly, and to understand that they're not attacking them. They're just they're just telling you how they feel about a problem, as you are a representative of the company,
Yes.
not because you did it.
Mhm.
I can't believe sometimes when I say, that something was a problem, how often somebody will say to me, well, I didn't do that. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Right.
As if, why am I telling them? Well, who
Right.
am I going to speak to?
Right. You're on the
But
payroll of this place, right?
yeah, just an example. There was someone who complained, very frustrated. Oh gosh, I had this. I had this father of the bride, the parents of the bride, or maybe it was a groom, come in, and it was 11 o'clock, and they wanted to know when they would be able to get into their room. And I explained to them that the check-in time is 3 o'clock. And they said, but the wedding is at 3 o'clock. So, where can I get ready? And they said, I'm sorry, but it said in your confirmation and in your pre-stay email and on our website and on the booking engine that it was 3 o'clock, and did not, and they were just venting, like, what is wrong with these dumb guests?
Mhm.
And some people were very say, yeah, what is wrong with these people? But some were going, hello, couldn't you help them? There's somebody's having their child's wedding in your hotel, and couldn't you help them and
Mhm.
help them find a place? We have to teach our people to think less about talking about the policy,
Right.
and more about how to resolve things. If you don't have that room available, maybe you have something else. Maybe there's a meeting room they can go to. Maybe there's always some solution, if you're a kind, helpful person who's looking to make people comfortable and get people what they need.
Yeah. The other sad part to it too is on the reverse of that coin, and this is a sad indication of our society right now. The racist actions that are going on right now for Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, for no solicitation. I mean, it made the news just recently. Some dude on some camera walks up to somebody, does some sort of slur to, and just, I mean, this is an older person, and just punches them. Cold
Yeah.
cock knocks him out. Concussion, bleeding, stitches, the whole 9 yards, and yells them and walks away for what? What? Thinking about our workforces for whom we have and so forth. I know that the hotels down here, in some ways, now are literally trying to put teams together to watch each other. That one of their team is not alone on a floor,
Hmm.
so that they're not placed into jeopardy. We've been teaching even before COVID about the safe and secure. I mean, we had this issue of abuse to staff members in rooms, housekeeping in particular, from errant guests that tried to take liberties or whatever have you, and going through protocols of how to give, to protect themselves, how to acknowledge any issue or anything like that, and to be willing to report it. That was probably the hardest thing we had to deal with, is getting them comfortable to even report it without thinking that they were jeopardizing their job by doing so. Because unfortunately, historically, we were like, oh, that can't be right. That's the guest. He's a nice guy. Why would he try to do that to you or whatever? At least we're finally past that to some degree. Not completely,
Yeah.
but at least we're looking at it differently, hopefully. But these things are a part of it. And it's a shame, because we know this is going to continue to happen in our society as this anger. I mean, when was the last time ever you would think about punching a flight attendant?
I
Not
know
ever.
that happens now.
Now
Right.
it's 2,300 times,
Yeah.
that these things are happening in the air in the past 90 days kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
and the violence of this, and 90% of them is because of the stupidity of thinking a mask is a political statement.
Yeah. And the road rage.
Oh,
A child, a little
shot.
child, a little tiny child was shot in the
Yeah.
car
What
because
possesses you to be so mad for nothing that you want to shoot and possibly have that happen to anybody?
it's unthinkable. But I tell you what, when I lived in Texas, I was told, like, as soon as I got to Texas,
Oh,
you know, You can't yell out the window, "Hey, where'd you get your driver's license?" You
You did that extremely well.
You do that really well, Adele. I'm just saying.
you can't do it. You can't do it in Texas, and you have to be polite because everybody has a gun. So
Yeah.
that's what I was told.
And they're very proud of that now too. Is the fact that the governor, he should be in jail, is touting the fact that you don't even need a license to carry a gun now for any. You can walk around with one on your hip. Why not? That's
Local
gas
carry.
on top of gas on top of fire. It's like
Mhm.
really, and you wonder why in Austin somebody rips out and shoots 14 plus people because
So
they were disagreeing with somebody else. And down here in Fort Myers, I'm not just pointing at Texas, and I lived there
Yeah.
for 5 years, total. Is here in Fort Myers Beach. Some fight broke out of the beach fights are a regular basis down here in Florida right now. Beach fights. And huge. And this guy
But
pulls out a gun.
It's got to be less. And I don't want to get into an argument about gun control and that kind of stuff, but we all immediately are concerned about the fact that they pulled out a gun. Shouldn't we be concerned about the fact that there was the fight to begin with?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that the cause? The gun is the effect. I mean,
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it's funny. I see it in different ways. I mean, this is kind of a tangent to the conversation to a degree, but there's the VR goggles I have, which I keep touting about. There's a game I play called Population One, which is a lot of fun. It's a game that you're pitted against
I'm
other
going to
real
friend you on
players.
that, by the way.
Yes. And you try to be the last one to survive. And yes, you're running around and shooting people virtually, and that's the part of the game part of it. The dialogue in the quote lobby that everybody's waiting to join the game into, that you're virtually in the room, you see a lot of anger. Cause it just add that social anger where I'm not in front of you, so I get to say whatever I want to because I'm not worried about you because I'm in a office with a screen in front of me. That ability to just open up and just talk filth is profound. Where a lot of times you're in lobbies and it's like, dude, I hate to say this, but I'm reporting you. There was one guy that was about as racist and bigoted as I've ever heard in my life, and I was in shock.
I'll bail on those.
Oh my God. And everybody in the room was like, we all reported you. You are going to be barred from this platform forever because you can record your video as you're in the game and stuff like this. And this guy was amazing. And the fact that people are in our society like that is mind numbing.
Actually, the ones that really blow my mind are when you get some, and you can tell by their voice that it's just a little kid, like an 8-year-old that is coming in and now is trying to talk that same way because they're trying to be as big, as aggressive
Whatever
as the other guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Come
we
on.
call them squeakers, but yes,
That's so sad.
It is sad because they're emulating what they're hearing from other people.
Right.
And these people are flat out. I mean, I don't think maybe they would in person do the same thing. And maybe they think that they can get away with it in person. But for what they said, I don't think they would. I don't think they would walk up to an ethnic community outnumbered and say what they said without thinking that there was going to be some repercussions to that.
I'm very proud to say that my son, 12 years old, does play Population One, loves the game and everything, but he also has a very good filter or a very good decision-making process, and he will bail on any game where it's got somebody like that.
Yeah, a lot of times we have, but that's just, I mean, in an addictive way. I'm sorry, Del, we interrupt you. So what you were going to say?
Well, I was going to say that I've always been a fan of teams, like having two housekeepers go together to do rooms as a team, as opposed to having individuals, one and the other. I just feel like it's safer. It has more energy. They kind of watch out for each other.
Yes.
It gives you that team feeling. And really, I think that two people working together is just a lot better system. You can get the job done. If there's a rush order for a room, it's done faster, and it's just much safer, I think, for them, as well as just being more fun.
Yeah.
And that is really important. But right now I'm seeing a lot of hotels that have one front desk clerk, in the evenings. And I have to say, a lot of times it's a young woman, and I can tell you, I could not have been a young woman standing alone at the front desk of a hotel. That would not work out good for me.
No, I'm with you on that. No, it's true. It's shame that people. Yes, I have a angst against ownership and management companies that are detached from the realities of what they're supervising.
Yeah.
The realities of what you just described. That person was on a shift that puts them into a questionable, and it's a shame for our society that we have to even say that, because times past that wasn't necessarily the case, but reality is reality now. I'm also a little bit interested in how our demands to travel are going to be. First of all, I think the dude that runs Morgan Stanley is a dork, because he's on some TV show for finance saying that he expects his teams to be back into the office by the end of July. And if they're not, then there'll be a whole different conversation that we're going to have after that. Really? So profitability of working from home means nothing. You just want to make sure they're sitting in the cubicle. Like,
And
seriously.
I'm real curious about if they thought through the liability process of that, because if you get all of those employees back together like that again, and just one of them catches COVID and has a dire situation because of that, and you force them to do that, that could be a liability issue for you.
Right. I mean,
But they could get their vaccination.
Yeah.
But even with the vaccination, you can still, I mean, look, nothing's perfect. By the way, get your vaccination.
Yes.
But
Right.
nothing's perfect. That's just reality, life.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're already seeing it. Okay. Exhibit A, cruise lines, test run. Everybody got tested before getting on the boat. Boom, 8 people get it. Now they're suspending it till the end of July now, because you know what? Didn't work. And it's one of those things where I think we're going to be dealing with, for instance, now for us on a personal level. I back before we had the vaccination schedule, I would be like, I wouldn't go anywhere. First, I wouldn't go shopping anywhere, be anywhere with anybody. But if I was even walking our dog down the street and somebody was walking the other way, I would move off away from the side to not be near them. If I had to go past them in close proximity, I'm wearing a mask outdoors as it was. We're slowly getting used to that. Okay, look, outdoors, not wearing a mask. I go to grocery shopping now, I wear a mask. And I know I'm one of the minorities in there right now. And and I get people looking at me, with that kind of look in their eyes, like, you don't have to wear that thing. I don't care what they think. Mine is, I feel that I'm helping by doing this. I know I've been vaccinated, but it doesn't mean I can't carry it. And it's a progression of time for us to get used to those kind of things. But for some people, they've been so adamant about their position on this. Oh, that's the other fun part. People that said, I'll never take a vaccine, and they're finally saying, oh, I got my second vaccine. Good for you. I mean, you threw it as a political statement for 8 months that this was bogus. And now all of a sudden you see that it's better to get it because now personally you saw somebody suffer through getting COVID. It does wake up a lot of people.
We haven't had that much COVID in South Carolina, and less than half of the people have had a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
But, unfortunately, the Delta virus is, I think, twice as fast spreading.
And worse. Worse.
And it is twice as likely to get you in the hospital. And I think, if I remember correctly, that 2 weeks after the second Pfizer shot, you're covered 80% for Delta. I know it's 90 something it's almost perfect for the original one, but although maybe it won't kill you, but it's still there, and it could just happen because you know what, everybody who wasn't in New York or California the first time around said that we were overreacting, and then everything happened in Texas and Arizona and all those other places, having those terrible situations, and it went to other countries. I mean, everybody was very blasé about it, I feel, at some point, if you weren't from New York. And, I'd hate to see something else happen because we just got too comfortable.
Once again, another reason to move to Nebraska, folks. Last week, Madison County had zero new cases of COVID.
That's fantastic.
That is awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think also too the dynamics of what we're talking about from market demand and so forth. We know that a record number of RVs have been sold, and people are not just walking away from that investment just now because the world's changed.
That's
They're going
true.
to infuse that into their travel strategies.
Hmm.
Given the limitations of what international travel looks like for right now, it's unlikely that's going to be a eminent bucket list. Not that people won't take advantage of it. I'm sure that people have and will. Um, but I think most of the people will defer that travel choice to a later time, perhaps when rates are a little bit better than what they are right now. Um, you have that in there. You have the fact that people are sticker shocked with what's demanded of them to travel. Like you said, Adele, with your rent a car, what we're talking about with hotels, what we're talking about with everything. And I think also, I think it's going to have a negative impact on the future planning test because from a group corp travel perspective or group travel or conference travel, right now, if you go look, if I were to go to Dallas now, and if I would not, I mean, I'm going to drive anyway, but if I wanted to get to Dallas to go to the conference, hotel rates, hotel duration for the time I would want to spend there, flights to get there that are currently bookable, okay, and the modalities of getting there for travel, whether I take transportation, which I know Dallas transportation is not worthy of. I can take a light rail to a certain place, but it's going to be a lot of walking to get from there to there, or if not Ubering, whatever. Um, that price, I mean, we're talking and then that if you have to pay to go into these things, that's the other part that bugs me is that these conferences are going back to the same pricing schedule they did prior to this. It's like, I don't know if that's a smart move to be dropping $600, $800, $900 to go to a conference. Okay, then I'm already having to spend twice again as much on in getting there and staying there to do it. I don't know. I mean, am I just being like ho hum negative dude or what?
I think we need to all rent an Airbnb with 4 bedrooms and
I like it. I like it. I like that idea.
Well, I was able to fortunately, well, I mentioned
the
that
La
one hotel. I
Quinta.
was able to burn points actually that I had accumulated over the years and couldn't use in the past year for obvious reasons. And I'm like, oh heck with it, I'm just gonna burn all my points here and use that to go down there. So I'm proud to say that my hotel room is free.
Awesome. That's the best
My
price.
favorite kind.
Yeah, right. It is funny in that sense is that we're all about pushing and optimizing for the hotels and so forth that we're doing, but by the same token, it's one of those um, when it comes to spending your own money, it's like you look for the affordability function as well, which we're very similar to other people in that sense that hey, we're just looking for what it's going to the reality of what it's the cost of getting someplace is going to be. It's
On this morning on the Clubhouse with Ed, um, we were talking about loyalty. And I think everybody was in agreement that real loyalty comes from the guest experience and from the people that are serving and making that relationship with the customer. And that happens digitally too, not just at the property, but before the property. But nobody seemed to say that they actually had a loyalty to a loyalty program. But there's a good example of, but if you do have the points, it's nice. But would you have made a different decision previously if it wasn't for the loyalty program? Or would you have made did the existence of the loyalty program change your booking decision when you were paying for it?
Well, no, because at the time I was working for Wyndham, and so stayed like a month and a half out of the year at Wyndham. So that's how they were accumulated. So yeah,
Right.
but
Well, that's a very, very big group of hotels. And by the way, I think we're talking about doing something nice for the heroes, the people, the healthcare workers and things like that. And they certainly did a fantastic job giving away a lot of free stays.
it's
And
nice.
they definitely are to be commended for that. They've been very generous.
yeah, definitely.
It's
And
it, I mean,
when we talk about the loyalty versus rewards of a program, and you're absolutely right. I become loyal to that once I get to that level where I am getting some real definable perks. I lived in Dallas for a long time, and if you live in Dallas, you're probably flying on American Airlines. It's a major
Yeah.
hub of Dallas Fort
Sure.
Worth, right? And so I was traveling for business, and eventually got to yay platinum level on American Airlines, cool. And boy, it did have some nice perks, right? I got upgrades, I got all kinds of cool stuff. And at that stage of the game, yeah, I did have a preference to fly on American Airlines. But if
Yeah.
I had been on a gold on America and a gold on Southwest and just the same level on all of those, whatever.
I think, we've had this discussion as well, and many times over, that there's a difference between loyalty, membership, and frequency. And unfortunately, a lot of the hotel programs have squandered their value. When Hilton rolled out the sign up to be a member and we'll give you a different rate to break that rate continuity between all the offerings and the platforms, they never really did much with what it took for people to sign up, because there's always the percentage that signed up simply to cancel it, or they put a bogus email in just to get the discount availability that the sign up gave them and so forth. But they never really offered beyond that the value of what it would be to get that relationship started. They hit upon a great chord to get people to sign up. Hey, do this and we can offer you a different rate, a strike-through rate or a membership only rate. But they didn't really exploit the influx as well as they could have, I think, with what that relationship initiation could help them for. And again, it goes back to, we've had lots of restaurants discussion this past week in Clubhouse, and a lot of it goes down to a lot of restaurants, they don't know what to do with that relationship anyway. And they don't also know how to monitor it, and especially if it doesn't connect to their POS systems, as to how that function works, if it's a separate system to run and so forth. But I go back to what we do for hotels and stuff. I think that there's a huge opportunity for independent hotels to create a relationship with their guests that's just for them. We keep putting it into the model the way everybody else does it. Oh, you shouldn't get an app because you're the only hotel. They're not going to leave it on your phone if they don't come back to you all the time. So why are they going to go and give an app for you? Fair enough. But the membership aspect about it isn't about the volume as it is the quality of the dialogue. How well can you create the relationship with being given? I think a blind eye to what's happening for the rest of this year is the impact of first-party, third-party cookie stuff. They don't really realize what it's going to mean. They're just being business right now. Sure, pay rack at the door, stuff. I don't care about marketing. I don't care about you signing up for anything. Just pay me what I'm asking for the rate that I'm getting. And we're going to get blinded here. We are getting blinded as to what happened before and what happened after dialogue, if they even touched our site. And the Googles of the world and everybody else are circumnavigating them even doing that. We know that from the answer boxes and stuff. Over 67% of people do not go to a website from a search query. They get their answer from the answer box. They're not coming to us anymore. So with us not getting that first party data, what else are we left with? Membership and loyalty. How well can we communicate with the people that are willing to communicate with us? I think we're going to be finding ourselves in a barren wasteland after this tsunami demand, and we start getting back to being competitive and market demand and all this other stuff, that we're like, okay, well, we got to go back to the old stuff. What do you mean the old stuff doesn't exist? Well, let's do that. We can't do that campaign anymore because we can't track where they're coming from. We can't retarget them. Well, then we'll do over and send it. We can't do that either. I think a lot of companies are going to realize there's a lot of tools that don't work anymore. They're not in the way that they did anyway.
And in the meantime, you look at the companies out there that are going to be eating your lunch. Google is an obvious example of that. TripAdvisor, actually really good. The TripAdvisor Plus program. We've talked about pros and cons on that program, but to their credit, they've evolved a little bit. They're fixing some of the cons. But regardless of what your opinion is on that, fact is they're getting the signups into their Plus program. That now becomes their loyalty program. I'm loyal to TripAdvisor, right? And they get all the first party data, not you. They do. Yes, you get the consumer information. You don't get the first party cookie, right? So you look at these, and even Expedia. So Expedia, to combat that, said that, hey, everybody who's signed up for Expedia is now part of Expedia Rewards. Congratulations, like 1 million people or whatever. And so you look at how they're all capitalizing on that and making sure that they do have that first party information. And yeah, suddenly you as a hotel, you're going to go, wow, where did all mine go?
Yeah. So why offer a member rate to Expedia if everybody's a member?
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
You're
What?
just making it more difficult for somebody to book direct.
Well, they're
It's
being lazy. It's being lazy. I mean, we had this conversation between the EU domain community and the US domain community where we were talking to people in the EU community that they're not built for direct connect stuff.
Right.
Their websites aren't built with content that says book through us or let's share information so you book with us. They're all about their consortiums and wholesalers driving business to them, and that their focus is in the optimization of operation. How well can we facilitate ourselves so that the wholesalers like us better than somebody else, you know? And go ahead, Dodo.
I was just going to say, if I was looking for a hotel, um, yes, I might get some response coming up in right on the page without actually having to click on anything to go to a website or whatever. But there's no chance in this world that that I would book a hotel without going to their website. No chance in this world. And no chance that I would do so without checking their reviews on TripAdvisor. Sorry, Google, but I just trust those reviews more, even though Google now says that they took like 200 million reviews out. I don't know. To me, it looks contaminated with people who just gave stars and may not have actually stayed because they didn't write any comments. I think the fact that you have to make a little bit more effort makes the TripAdvisor more quality. Plus, they have the whole content integrity team constantly looking at that stuff. So I'm never going to do that. And you know what, Stuart Butler? So the source is questionable. No, I'm only kidding. He's green. Stuart Butler said to me, 87% of people, even though they're booking on an OTA, went to your website first. And what does that tell you about your website experience?
Yeah.
Very true. But again, culturally, I say that if you're, because we had this discussion in the EU community, if you go to any downtown area of any township in most of the countries that I've been to, there's a travel agency. It used to be Cook in some places, or there used to be this travel agency thing, and they had the traditional brochures stuck in the windows kind of stuff, or on a screen maybe, if they were being progressive. And that relationship with that travel agency was the definition of what you're talking about. The authentication of the destination, the authentication of what you were doing, where you were staying, and so forth, was the burden of the person you were dialoguing with that you were paying for to go over and book your stuff with. That relationship of going to there to plan your holiday. And the hotel, when you were there, you knew you could go to the hotel because you're there. But the idea of going to the hotel to understand what you were getting or the reviews, they really relied heavily more culturally on the travel agent wholesaler relationship than they did the other resources that you're talking about. It's not that they're unfamiliar with Review Pro and all the rest of these places over and stuff out there, but the relationship was a little bit there. We as a domestic culture got off of the travel agent roller coaster a while back, where we weren't really dealing with travel agents anymore. We just saw them as a extra cost commodity. Don't tell me I can't book my own flight when this flight place over here lets me do it. I'm not going to pay you your commission. And the airlines decided not to pay the commission even, for anybody else to handle the bookings for them and so forth. It used to be you had to get your trip tickets from the travel agent, the little red inked tickets, you got them. There was no Delta Airlines office you went to, you got them from your travel agent because they had the printer that printed out those red inked tickets that you walked in the door and handed to your tickets.
Now you just got a QR code on your phone.
Now, yeah, I remember how cute it was that we could actually print it. Remember you could print out your own boarding pass? Actually print it. And then, for a long time, I even did it, even though my phone supposedly does, because at the worst time your phone didn't work or whatever. And that's all gone by now, where it's just a matter of me my watch goes over and pings it, ding, and it catches it.
Now, by way of comparison, you talk about the brick and mortar agency. I said earlier, my brother went down to Jamaica. He did go through a brick and mortar human travel agent who had just gone down to Jamaica, made the trip, stayed at this particular resort, came back and said, hey, so for a scenario like that, the fam trip for travel agents, I can see that coming back. That's a thing right now because, I'm not quite sure about my trip going down there. What's that going to be like? Oh, you can tell me. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And I think that technology is going to help us with that. There are a huge amount of growth for travel experience guides, because through this pandemic time, a lot of those has been exposed to, I can't go to a destination, but I can watch like Amazon Tours. I can watch somebody walk me through that kind of stuff. And there's people that have been creating cottage businesses of literally providing virtual in comparison to real tours, that watch it virtually so that when you come to us, you're going to hire us to go give you your tour, and a lot of us we have the FOMO. I don't want to miss out on what, stuff is when I'm there. I used to rely on my own wherefore, like do their own research kind of stuff. I've either gotten lazy or realized I was really bad at it. Probably both. Where now it's like, no, when we go someplace, I want to get a local guide that will make sure I don't miss the biggest ball of twine and what I should know about where to eat and what to do. Even though I can probably do some pretty good research on my own and ask smart questions from it, I don't want to plan it because, case in point, Michelangelo's David. And this, I remember this in my head from the Italian trip we took. Straight up, you can buy the tickets at this one location. That's what we heard. Go here, buy them there. We get there, the line is freaking around the block waiting. Okay, didn't know that, but sure, we're standing in line. We noticed there's a small little door off to the side, and this person would show up with about a handful of people, knock, it would open up. A guard that was the same guard that's keeping us in line over here opened the door, and they walked in. So while Renee stood in line, I walked over, and when another group of them came over, I says, "Hi, what are you going in to see David?" I said, "Yeah. If you buy the tickets around the corner at the local store for the museum, then you're escorted directly in." I'm like, really? Where would you find that information? Well, of course, the travel agents know all this stuff. That's what they organized. But not anywhere at that time could I find out that was even an option, that you just go to the museum's office to buy VIP ticket. There were more, okay, but you literally waited until the group got together for the designated time that you were walked in and you got to see David. So it's like the fast pass at Disney World, and unless you know how to get booked, I mean, there's a whole subculture, not even subculture because it's so huge, but the subculture of people that know how to travel through the Disney parks. You go to anywhere about how to optimize your travel to a Disney park. What restaurants are worth going to? How do you book those restaurants when you're there? How do you get in front of other people in line with the fast passes? What VIP programs are good? What packages are good? There's a whole culture of people that run podcasts and shows all the time, literally about just that. Like,
or you can ask on TripAdvisor in a forum. Hey, I'm going here.
Yes, and that's a good point. There is avenues. There are avenues to find this data, but going back to the European versus domestic model we have is like, the Europeans are like, look, I got travel agents do that. And if they don't do it well, if my travel agent arranged for me to go to Italy and I'm standing in the long line and I find out there was a short line, my conversations with my travel agent going, why didn't you tell me about that, dude? Oh, I didn't know about that. I'll find a travel agent who did, Right. Now it's their problem business model wise that they're not providing the level of service to justify their cost. It's a strange mix, but I think personally for me, I think that where everybody's so willing to throw away the virtual conferencing right now, I'd be a little bit of I would go with the hybrid right now. Do the in-person for those that are willing to pay the price to go there, to be able to do the group hugs and the see you in persons and all that stuff, which I too miss. But for the people that, wow, that's a heavy price ticket. It's in my pocket. I'm a private business, small business. I can't drop $4,000 or $5,000 to go to this conference, Yeah,
and you know what? You'll expand your reach exponentially, because now everybody who wanted to go to the conference and be there face to face and have their booth and shake hands, or hopefully, elbow bump, they're going to be there anyway. And on top of that, you'll have all this extra revenue from people who paid a less price, but can at least enjoy the educational benefits.
I'm writing notes while we're doing this for this. I think it's going to be an interesting, because it's the part that I point out right now that I'm having current conversations with is I don't have time for marketing conversations. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm full on logistics right now. Yeah, we're full. Right. What am I going to sell? What do you want to market for? What am I selling?
There are a lot of hotels that are not sold out. I mean, even if they say that the overall U.S. occupancy was 67% or something like that, previous week, and it was the highest that it's been in a long time. Yeah, but what about the other, 35%
Hmm.
we need to sell? And also, what about the cities that aren't nearly there yet? There are a lot of places that are not beach resorts and do not have outdoor pools and do
Yeah.
not are not situated by an attraction that maybe was very businesslike. By the way, if I was an investor, I would never build a hotel that was strictly built for business. There's no way. I would definitely
No, not now,
always
that's
make
for sure.
sure it can sell both as a
Yeah.
leisure and as a business place. It can't be one or the other. It can't be feast or famine. You've got to be able to survive the hard times by there's always somebody that wants a break,
Mhm.
and it shouldn't have to be connected to a business event.
Right. It's strange. I think that we talk about the big boxes downtown in the cities that are going to struggle the most because that group corp business is not coming back yet, per se, to the levels that it needs to be. And that, they have to be creative and adaptive as to what they can sell their inventory for. I think personally, if I were to be one of those people, I think of the downtown Atlanta ones in particular, everybody else wants to go to the transient demand destination, beach, camping, mountains, whatever it is that's getting them to enjoy themselves. There's probably a lot of people that just look at price tags and go, "Oh, no, no, I'm not going to drop 1,000 for the room and
Yeah.
1,300 for a rent a car and $700 for flight tickets, and then you multiply it times my family." No, not going to do it. But I can go to Atlanta, get a really nice room downtown, and try a secondary market discovery. There's cool stuff in Atlanta. And in all honesty, okay, so I'm in downtown Atlanta. No, I'm not near the hyper transient demand markets around Atlanta, and maybe even too far away to enjoy them in a single day. But why not discover other stuff? The museums, the cultural, try a secondary market. If because the core element of the demand is getting out of your familiar house, what you've been putting yourself into for 12 to 15 months. So if you keep the purity of that thought, it's not about going to when I get out of here, I'm going to the beach. Well, the beach is dang expensive right now. How about if I go downtown Atlanta and just get out of the house and enjoy something that I probably didn't anticipate and be reasonable about the costs.
Yeah.
The room rates and everything else are there. And I think hotels should be looking at that. Like, if I'm not in that beaten path, the ones you talk about, Adele, I'm not in that big business demand. I'm not that place right now. Why couldn't you be that? You know what? I'm not the prettiest girl at the ball, but I'm pretty.
Yeah, and hire some musicians. Make a beautiful space.
Mhm.
Put some flowers around. Make it feel like a retreat.
Right.
I saw a post from someone saying, if you lived in Atlanta, what's your favorite, um, you know, quick getaway? And I couldn't believe it, but one after the other, after the other, after the other said Chattanooga. Okay, that
Right.
never occurred to me in a million years. But
Sure.
now, and ever since then, I'm going, I've got to find out what's going on in Chattanooga.
Right.
Give these places a chance, because obviously they are enchanting people.
Mhm.
And there are opportunities out there for travelers, even New York City. Yeah, we talked about these major destinations having these really high rates, but not all of them. I was looking at New York City yesterday, actually. Times Square, a respectable hotel in Times Square was still going out at 129 a night. So there's, there are still opportunities out there. Certainly the secondary, Chattanooga, Nashville,
Well,
every,
Nashville's hot now.
yeah,
Nashville's
every
freaking
state.
top of the mountain, man. They're crushing it.
Every
But there are
state has
places
got
around.
something like that. If you have a chance, Mackinac Island, Michigan. Okay,
Mackinac.
middle of nowhere. It is an
Looks
island, as the name
beautiful.
would say. You're going to fly into Traverse City. You're going to drive to Mackinac City, which, by the way, has a bridge that rivals the Golden Gate Bridge in terms of its structure. You're going to take a boat to the island, and there's no motorized transportation on the island, so you have to take a horse and buggy to your hotel. All right. There are little things like that everywhere, though. that you can take advantage of, but you have to do a little digging.
So here's a perfect example of exactly what you're saying about that. I didn't think about. So I have a lot of hotels in Indianapolis as a client, and we're really digging down into variations of what people travel for and what they do. And a lot of the functionality is superficial. Like, oh, we have airport travel, we have downtown travel, we have conference travel, we have certain functional things. Indianapolis 500 race, the basketball finals, and so forth and so on. The NCAA stuff and things. Those are draw markers. Those are benchmark ones. But we were talking about seasonality of laying things down, like I call putting something in the breech of the gun kind of stuff. There, and you're ready to shoot. You have something to shoot with, like when the weather changes and it gets cold. What do you offer, kind of things. And we start digging down, and there is a whole mess of what they call them, pickers or antique chasers that go around. And in that area outside of, in the suburbs and beyond of Indianapolis, there's like famous routes of antique places to go around things. There's wine places to go. There's a farmer's market. They have this huge, it's called the Farmer Market Run. There's an area northwest of Indianapolis that is beautiful country, I guess. And there's a lot of local farming that's there. And there's a tremendous amount of local farmers. Now, from a tourist perspective, that's not a big draw. I mean, I'm not going to buy a bunch of groceries I got to throw in a suitcase. So I understand. Okay. But the idea of seeing local and going local and just seeing stuff, it doesn't mean you can't stop by and get a homemade jam or try a sample of, or gosh knows what restaurants in the area are famous. When you go to those places, you're talking to the farmer people and going, oh, all our stuff, we sell it to the XYZ cafe in XYZ town, and they make a great XYZ dinner or something. And you're like, let's go there. That exploring and that difference of stuff. And of course they have their typical seasonalities, corn mazes and things that, as you start really digging down, when you get past the obvious stuff and start going into the got to think about it things, some stuff comes up. And I'm thinking about Atlanta, stuff like this. There's probably a lot more to the market that we just ignore because it's not as prominent as the obvious stuff. Okay. For instance, there is a Southern fried chicken restaurant downtown right by this big box hotel that I'm thinking about that is notoriously famous. Has been there since Prohibition days. And it's been in existence. And it is every local person has grown up generationally going to that restaurant. It's not featured by the conference place because that's too small. They weren't going to tell a conference of 3,000 people about a 40-seat restaurant. That just would be a piss me off. Like, thanks for telling us, we can't do anything with it. But now it's a whole nother story. Why not talk about being 2 blocks away from this most amazing historic restaurant with amazing fried chicken?
I've got to one up you here. One time I was in Atlanta, actually Buckhead, Atlanta, so one of the suburb areas.
Yep, beautiful place.
And I don't know if it's still there. I should probably look before I say this, but had the opportunity to go to this place called Dante's Down the Hatch. And so you go into this building, you actually go into the basement. It's down below, it's in the basement. Once you get down there, you discover that there's a river, or kind of a moat. It's actually more like a moat. And you have to cross over the moat to get into the restaurant seating area. And you notice there's alligators down in the moat. And it's a fondue restaurant then that's inside of it. So you got this river with alligators. You cross over and say, oh my gosh, I never would have found that place. Right? But it was just the most amazing place. And we can find things like that.
That's the fun stuff. That's the stuff that hoteliers and restaurateurs need to realize, that sharing that type of content. And to your point, that restaurant website could probably been a great website, but I would not know to look for that website.
Right.
So you need that collaborative community thing that says, well, what hotels in that area should be talking about the fact that they're near that restaurant? And how are they getting that message out? And more importantly, one step up, what's the chamber doing about it? And then one step up, what's the Tourist Development Council doing about that? And the CVB, how are they all talking to each other? I know, since we're talking bad about Stuart, since he's not here, because he's now that big wig over in Myrtle Beach, is what are they offering? What do they come with hat in hand saying, I know you're a small restaurant and I'm a big, important CVB. What can I do for you? How can I bring business to you? I know Stuart does that. I know he's probably the best that I know personally, that he'll be that person that does it. But there's a lot of CVBs that are like, unless you're the big anchor hotel in my destination, I'm not really worried about being nice to you. You know,
Well, you always talk to the bellman or woman, the bell person, whatever we want to call it. That's the person who knows where to find these things.
yeah. Go ahead,
You
Deb.
know, actually, anybody in the hotel has opportunities to recommend places
Sure.
nearby. And this kind of conversation actually came up a bit on the Clubhouse this morning. A great way to use your database is to use your people to say, you know, let me share with you a few of my special hidden attractions in the area. I love this little restaurant because of this. I love this shop because of this. Here's this quirky little whatever that is a real, you know, characteristic of our small local community. And I guarantee you, you're going to find gifts that you love to take back home with you. Using the people and what the people are doing is really, you know what? If I put a social media post up of our hostesses pouring wine in the club lounge for some guests, that is going to have the most likes.
Mhm.
Better than any sale, better than any just factual thing, better than any glam shot. That's what they want to see. If they see a housekeeper that was really nice to them, setting up a beautiful rose petal heart and or you know welcome back or anything like that, if I take a picture of that smiling lady, she's going to get a lot of likes,
Mhm.
much more than the very fancy
You know,
social media posts.
and it goes a lot for me when I travel. Just personal habits. I like picking up T-shirts and polo shirts, you know, stuff, unique stuff. And some of my most treasured T-shirts are from places that are 100% local. Wouldn't know it if you weren't in the local area. Kind of stuff. Bars, restaurants, things. There's a place. I don't know why I'm talking about fried chicken damn now, but I'm hungry for it.
Yeah, right.
There's a place in Memphis, off of Beale. Actually, it's by far off of Beale. It's better to take an Uber than it is to walk. And it's Gus's Chicken. Been there since, you know, I don't think they've cleaned the cast iron kettles that they do the chicken in since they opened in the 1930s. Famous, awesome place. Hole in the wall place. I mean, rickety screen door, walk in the place kind of stuff. Wood that's worn down because of how many people walked in. That's how, you know, but absolutely amazing fried chicken. I got a T-shirt from there because I thought this is so cool. I get more comments from people when I wore it before and say, "Give me the Gus's," you know, because it's like everybody that knows it knows it, and those kind of places, that T-shirts from little bars here and stuff like this that I have, that's mine, and it's a missed component for so many people. They throw out swag on these places, and it's generic stuff. Chattanooga, okay, I can buy that online. I don't need to buy it here.
I love New
You know,
York. Or I
right, but
heard
call
New
me, you
York.
know, the Chattanooga train station deli or something like this. Okay, I'm that, because that means it's a bragging. When I wear that T-shirt, I was there. Okay, you can't just find that stuff on, you know, online. You had to have been there to buy it. You know, I had coffee mugs with logos on it, things like stuff that you would say, "What the hell?" Everybody travels with everybody else, even though they're not on the trip with them, because we all tell the story of our travels. And for those people that we care about, that we're like, "Hey, I thought of you when I was there. I know you love fried chicken. Here's a Gus's T-shirt," which I did with a friend of mine. He told me about Gus's. He said, "If you're ever in Memphis, man, we went through our review. There's Gus's Chicken is amazing." I looked for it. So when I came back, I bought him a T-shirt because he likes T-shirts too. It's like, "Dude, here's your T-shirt. Thank you. It really was amazing." So when we get now, we're able to get back together again. It's like, "You wearing your Gus's shirt?" "Yeah, I'm wearing my Gus's shirt." We show up with our Gus's shirt. It's that storytelling stuff, like you're talking about, Adele. Is that it's just like, yeah, that's the part that is the trip that is the one that lingers. So when I go back
Yeah.
to Memphis, dang straight, I'm going to go back to Gus's if I can.
And you know what? If your restaurant or your hotel doesn't have caps, doesn't have T-shirts, doesn't have golf shirts, it's probably a really good idea. If you have people who love that experience, they want to remember it. And how fun is it for people who see that logo to say, I've been there too. And and it keeps keeps it in fresh in your mind.
Or
Why wouldn't
reverse.
you do that?
Go say, oh, you stayed at that place in that city? I was thinking about going to that city. Is that a good place to stay at? You must have liked it because you got a T-shirt for it.
Yeah.
You know who made an entire industry out of that? Your Hard Rock hotels, right?
Yeah.
Hard Rock Cafe in London, Hard Rock Cafe in Paris, Hard Rock Cafe in
Harley
New York.
Davidson.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a Starbucks mug from every continent,
go.
every
Yeah.
city.
It's a bragging right. Budapest, Starbucks. Yeah, been there, got it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Literally, the phrase "got the T-shirt for it" means something.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny because we did that from a post process where it's like for our resorts, and it was a good retail function for us. The post stay engagement, going da da da. By the way, did you forget anything? Now that you've left, do you want a towel with embroidery on it of the logo? Things that and of course we sold stuff. I mean, nobody made them more famous in the West End with the Heavenly Bed thing, but we're not trying to just sell furniture, but the swag stuff that we had in the resort, the branded stuff we had in the resort, the giving away plastic mugs with a logo on it in your restaurant, those things, and you charge for them, they go with everybody. What you got?
This is a bowl from the Adolphus Hotel in Dallas, Texas. I have had this. It says Hotel Adolphus right there.
There you go.
And I have had this for at least 40 years. No, not 40. Yeah, almost 40 years. Yeah. So actually, I'm really quite thinking about splurging and staying at the Adolphus because I feel so attached to it, and it is so special and unique for Dallas. So definitely having something in your home that reminds you of something beautiful that you saw there, it just keeps it in your heart.
Yep.
It does. And see, by the way, and if you're going to pay an extra $1 to spend someplace, that is a place to pay for.
It is.
Hey, we all remember Holiday Inn towels. I mean, in all honesty, back in the day, everybody had a Holiday Inn towel because they took it from the hotel they were in. It's like,
yeah.
It's sad because it didn't say the location; it just said Holiday Inn. At the time, it was a point of pride you stayed in a hotel. Like, I stayed in the Holiday Inn. It's funny you bring up that because I mean, things like the Vinoy Hotel in St. Petersburg was the originator of the blue plate special. They had the blue cobalt plates, and when the hotel closed to be renovated into a new, I forget what they made into Renaissance. They were wholesaling all this stuff. I bought a stack of blue plates, and I used to use them as regular plates. Broke a few, so forth. I have a cherished remaining 4. These are like and it was a hotel that when I lived in St. Petersburg, to have stayed at this hotel was a big deal. This was a major hotel. This was amazing. You stayed at the Vinoy. Oh my gosh, what'd you think? Da da da. And they had these chandeliers. There's places like that. New York, the Waldorf. If you stayed at the Waldorf in its glory, it's a memory that you do not forget. The attentiveness of the crew, the long coats, the hats, the pristine uniforms, the concierge, the meets and the greets, the staff, that everyone was just perfect. Just one of those things that you remember of, and maybe it wasn't, but that's the memory I kept. Everything was just amazing. It was what I always pictured quintessentially as a New York destination place to stay, was the long coated doorman, the meets and greets, the warm smiles all the time, the absolutely immaculate uniforms, immaculate lobby, always fresh flowers that smelled so wonderful. And we forget that nowadays it's, hi, what room? You checking? What's your name? And it's this functionality thing. There's no magic to it anymore. It's about where's my room? And we got kind of that way because of COVID as well. Hey, stay away. I just want to get my room. Thank you very much. But we got to remember that there's a magic to travel for when you can provide that magic, that uniqueness. And Adele, I think you got the keys to the kingdom on that, because literally what you do and how you talk about it is literally creating the team to be the magic. It's not about a coffee mug with a logo. It's not a T-shirt. It's not a flower in the lobby. Those things add to it. But it's did I feel like I was at a place that was taking care of me? And that feeling comes from the people,
Stephanie Ritchie wrote a very short article in Hotel News Now about, you just need to do things a little bit better than everyone else. You just need to pay attention to some small details that make a big difference in somebody's experience. And just, she said, just imagine, what could delight somebody in these situations. But you know what? I said, you don't have to imagine how to delight somebody or how not to irritate somebody, because these people are telling you loud and clear. They're telling your front desk staff, they're telling your housekeepers, and they're telling the world on Google and TripAdvisor and every other place, Expedia, Booking.com. We have so much information. And if you just let that feedback be your train, your service profit train. It makes all stops at employee satisfaction, guest satisfaction, ROI, ADR, occupancy, everything, that whatever it is that where you want to go, it will take you there. But you have to listen, and you have to have a plan, and you have to communicate to your team. And it's so easy. It's so easy. And if it doesn't seem like it's easy, call me, because I tell you what, I can show you how easy it is. It can be done. It can be done anywhere. It can be done at any, select service hotel, any coffee kiosk. It can be done anywhere. Any place can deserve 5-star reviews. And if you don't think that having 5-star reviews is going to be a whole lot more profitable than having 4-star reviews, just try it, or just talk to somebody who's done it. It's remarkable.
And bringing to and amplifying what you're saying to a degree is, we all know the mechanics of what it took to do business up to this point. What we often forget is that people don't really care. They just want to know their current awareness of what you're capable of doing. The bragging rights that a hotel has to emerge from this pandemic with good and great review scores and comments will be even magnified more in value for all the hotels that fell down from this process. There was a lot of good and great hotels that opted for what we have been complaining about today, which is maximization of revenue, minimization of service, and the disparity that it can create, with the idea being, hey, I'm making money while the demand's here, and it might sacrifice my service levels, but that's the sacrifice I'm willing to take because I need to make up for all the monies I haven't made this past year plus. That's going to be a huge hole to dig out from underneath in 3, 4, 6 months, when now they're being put in comparison to the other hotels that didn't do that did what you said, Adele, which is, we're going to focus on maintaining our service levels. We're going to be efficient with what we're doing. Didn't mean that they didn't have stronger rates, but they didn't sell past their service levels either. They maintained that caliber and quality of expectation. And even though it goes into that, well, we're not doing housekeeping as much as we used to or whatever, sure, albeit that people can accept those variations, but the caliber of the people, the part you're talking about, didn't diminish. And it's funny, there was an article that says, actually, as you get older, time does pass faster. And I read that, it's like, oh, that's got to be buzzing.
Oh, that's true.
But it does. And they showed the math to prove this. And the example they gave was pretty interesting. If you're a 1-year-old and you turn 2, 50% of your life was spent in 1 year. So that was a long time. When you're 55 and you go to 56, it's like 2 cents of it, 1.16% of your life. So it means that there's a less proportion of your life was spent for that year. So
the year didn't go faster. Your perception of the year went
your
faster.
perception of the time went faster, which is how we kind of look at it. I mean, as we go on, the more birthdays that happen. Well, I bring this up for the metrics of averaging of your scores. In college, it's really easy in your first semester to go from a D to an A or 2.0 to a 4.0 simply in your next semester by doing great scores for all of them. However, in your senior year or your master's year, if you're down 0.5% on your GPA, there's no way you can get that back, because even if you straight aced everything that semester, that percentage contribution to your overall metrics is much smaller to make that difference. So these review processes you're talking about, Adele, you think, oh, well, they're knocking it down because it's making negative impact. It's current reviews. To go back up that ladder requires an exponential amount of engagement that is all positive to make the reverse of that negative impact that so little had done at this latter moment.
There's a point I want to make that's a really important one, and I think that a lot of hotels are missing this, so I'm glad I got it just before the 1:30 mark comes. Look, if you are getting 4-star reviews, if 100% of your business is 4-star reviews, you don't have any guest loyalty. That is a person who scores you at 4 says everything was fine, it was okay, I got what I expected, it was good. You got what you got for showing up. There was a study done many years ago, and I read about it in the Harvard Business Review, that said Xerox realized that the people that scored them a 5 were 6 times more likely to repurchase a Xerox machine than the 4s. 4s are not your loyal customers. Everybody is up for grabs. So if you think that because 90% of your guests are 5s and 4s, if 10% are 5s and the rest are 4s, you don't have loyalty. It's only 5s that count. If you're counting the NPS, I guess you call it, they only count as a positive, not 4s and 5s. The 5s, because it's only a 9 and a 10 that count as a positive. A 7 or an 8 is a neutral, and 6 or below that means 3 or below if it's on 1 to 5 instead of 10. That is a detractor. So you only should be looking at how many 5s you got, and then how many distractors, means 3, 4, 3 2s and 1s that you got. 4s are neutral. They don't do you any good. They're not your loyal customers. They're will jump. They will jump to the next new hotel. There's somebody that sends them a promotion, something that gives them extra value. Please understand that only 5-star reviews are loyal.
Taking notes. Yeah, I'm putting all that in. So we are kind of to that point of the 2-hour mark, which I'm trying to keep in a nice contained because it helps with a lot of logistics and stuff. So with that being said, and the reason why I'm saying that is because we're now broadcast on TV. We're on TV, which is all fun to that. I'm changing content next week. Not changing, I'm adding content. I put out the word and had friends help me put out the word for content that we're looking for. There are some amazing people that are worthy of being on like the Food Channel that are running content that they're not on the Food Channel. Like for instance, I got reached out by the Restaurant Association of Colorado, the president of it. They're running their culinary students around to ranches and farms, and they're doing a whole back of the house story build. They're running around an RV for 3 or 6 weeks, and they're going from the concept of where all this comes from all the way up to the point where they slide the plate in the window. So everything back of the house. How did they come up? Where did it come from? How is it determined to be used? How is it prepared and processed? How does it become into a menu item? How does the menu run with purchases and distributions and everything else? How does it make it to the restaurant? How is it handled in the restaurant? How is it designated in the restaurant? And then when they put the plate up in the window, that's the end of the story. And they want to go over and get on the channel. I have Iron Chefs and a 12-time winner World Pizza competition person that wants. So I don't want to turn it into a food channel, but there's this amazing content that we don't often get to see unless we're looking for it. It's the point I'm trying to make, is like, there's some awesome content, just like with your podcast, both of you. It's like, I got to want to know about reputation management. AKA, I would start looking around for it. AKA, I'll find Dell, but then also, they have a podcast and whatever, or meta search or whatever. It goes back to the idea we had with the hotel with the website. They got to actually be finding that website to find that information, where broadcasting allows for an awareness going, I didn't know that existed. I didn't know the Colorado Restaurant Association was doing a whole series of videos on all this stuff. That's pretty cool. Or I didn't know there was a reputation service that can help me create this culture that I know that I need that I don't know how to do. That's the cool part of all this. I'm still sorting through how to do all the content for it, but I know, Del, I have yours and Dean's. We're going to start putting it in. I'm trying to figure out, and I'll probably bugging you guys about, do we do it at the same day, same times? Do we just rotate it into content that we roll all the time? There's an on-demand function. Is that the primary one where they can on-demand choose things, or do I do the linear one? It's weird decisions I never know I had to face. Like, what's the best way to get this stuff in front of people? That they just watch the channel, or do they go on demand like a Netflix going, oh, I want to watch about reputation management. Okay, I want to go and do that. I don't know which is the best way yet. So I'll be happy to take insights from everybody. And for anybody that's on the show watching us on this stuff, I'm open to the content, because I think there's a huge opportunity for us to get a lot of this cool content that, Food Channel, they put it through the lens of, can we sell ad space?
Food is at least, a very strong part of hospitality. So
Oh yeah.
definitely deserves a place at the table.
Ah. All right. So with that, to wrap up all this, because I'm the one that bled us over today. Adele, for those who want to know about you and where to find you and what you're doing, where can they find you?
Visit me at adelegutman.com, link in with me, and definitely subscribe to the Hospitality Reputation Marketing Podcast. But if you need personal help on how to inspire 5 stars, I'm your expert.
That's true. Mr. Dean, sir, for what you do and what the people to find you, where can they do all that?
You bet. So if you want to learn how to do meta search programs and what they're all about, visit basecampmeta.com. If you just need somebody to do it for you, go to metasearchmarketing.com. We can help you with both ends of that. And a recent update. By the way, did you get my new podcast?
Look.
When you sent a podcast from me earlier this week, and kind of an important one, by the way, because Google launched some new functionality. We talked about this on Clubhouse earlier this week too. I did a podcast on it. Date selection levers for your meta search bidding. It's a huge opportunity for hotels to optimize their meta search. Anyway, I talk about it in my new podcast.
Oh, there it is. Got it.
The Heavy Meta Podcast. There we go.
Got it.
Check that out.
Do you have a link to the HSMA certification for the meta search that you're doing?
Not in front of me, but that's a great question and a great plug, by the way, because we have a training class with HSMAI as part of their educational series on meta search.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't wait to get. I'd love to share it with the South Carolina and North Carolina chapters.
I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but yeah, I'll get it
next time.
Good. Okay.
Well,
cool.
I want to wish everybody a happy Juneteenth.
Yes, Juneteenth, and finally it's federal holiday. Gosh knows that's overdue. For everyone that wants to rewatch this and also the previous episode, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv. All the archives are there for the show. We're moving off of the hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. It's still there, but that's not the focal point anymore. It's now hospitalitychannel.tv. For those who want to subscribe or watch us, well, actually for free, you can always watch us on Roku, Google TV, Apple TV, Amazon Prime. You can watch the live show free every week, Friday, when we broadcast it. But if you want to get into the really cool content, that's a subscription service you can join in on there. It's $4.99 a month. Anyway, and there's, like I said, that's actually at talktravel.tv if you want to go on the website for it. Plus, it's also an Apple and Google Play iOSs, so you can put it on your phone or iPad or anything like that. So lots of cool places to find all of our content. So with that, thank you both again, as always, privilege of your time, going through all these contents and pieces and so forth. I know that we're going to be doing our Clubhouse stuff next week at noon, Monday through Thursday. I know that Ed does his 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. If you're a Clubhouse app user, you can find us at Hospitality Marketing Club there. So with that, thank you both, as always. And for everyone else that watched us and listened to us on all the different channels today, we hope forward to talking to you again next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Friday for show number 307. So bye, everybody. Thank you.
Happy Father's Day.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dean.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye now.